My friends, it's time to get back up to Everstoke and do some projects. I've been gone for about a month, but things here are always on the go, especially with the animals. It's always great to come back after being gone for a month and look through all the fun things that are happening on the game cameras. And the most exciting for me is finally spotting some coyotes with the game cameras. Coyotes are quite a common animal in the cities and the country, but we had not seen any yet, so spotting these three was really cool to check off the list. So that means the wolf is the only big mammal on the list that hasn't traipsed through our property yet. So we're gonna keep our eyes open, gonna keep the game cameras rolling, and hopefully we'll spot some. And now as things are starting to get colder, we're seeing a lot more bear activity on the camera as they have to hunt and scrounge for every possible calorie that they can get before they start to hibernate for the winter. And we can definitely tell that winter is on the way because fall has begun in earnest. Overnight lows below freezing already, but when the sun comes out during the day, it's beautiful. And we just got a ton of rain, which is great because it got rid of all that crazy moon dust, but now we kind of just have a big muddy mess. And luckily my partner Aaron was super smart and got 2 inches of gravel road base delivered and put down from the entrance all the way to the shred quarters, so we can drive on this little road now without worrying about slipping off. The mud is so crazy in the spots where there is no gravel. Aaron also dug this massive hole to trap things in. It's where we're gonna put our septic tank, so I guess we'll mostly be trapping poop. We actually got the septic tank delivered today, which is great, but we are so far away from actually having real deal flush toilets. But in today's video, I think I can get us a lot further down the line. So the goal is to get running water by the end of this video. It may take me 3 months to film it, but by the end of this video, hopefully you will see me cranking open a tap and water coming out. Not our current rinky-dink, a little bit janky system of actually getting it directly from the well, pushing a button, having to put it into intermediary tanks. That's just too much. The water tanks we use right now are pretty good for storing water, for having a little bit of water pressure, to do all kinds of random stuff around camp. We don't drink from that water, but we do wash our dishes with it and take showers with it. And lately, there's been a lot more grimy, gross stuff growing inside of the tanks. So it's time for real tap water. So naturally, the first step in getting running water is drilling a hole in the side of our shipping container. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, we got a shipping container. This is just a huge piece of the puzzle. Before we just had everything out in the elements, getting wet, getting dusty, getting nasty. This is such a better way to go. So back to the hole. What do we need the hole for? We need a hole so we can get these cables inside, wired up to the power station at all times. Right now, we can only charge the power station if we're actually here because the wires have to run outside, through the door, then back inside. This way, if the sun is shining and hitting the panels, we're getting very good, consistent power charge. Our power system is good, but it's not big, bad, on-demand power like you have back at home. We still have to ration, we still have to be very careful what we use, how much we use it, or we won't have battery for a day and we gotta sit around and wait for the sun to power the thing back up. So I think the next step has been long overdue. Let's actually test the well water, see what we're working with here. Oh man. This looks complicated. Fill the small clear vial to the top. Which one is the small clear vial? They're exactly the same size. So I figured out the test and it looks like the water is really, really good. No hydrogen sulfide, the pH is around 7, no nitrates or nitrites, no lead, no copper, no iron. The mercury seems good. It's a little tough to tell with the colors here. The only thing that looked bad was the manganese content. It looks like it's off the charts on this. So I'm gonna go really heavy with the manganese filter. And then after this, I'll set everything up. I'll test everything again at a later date. So I'm juggling two things at once here. We need to build a structure around the well to keep it safe and out of the elements, and at the same time, we pretty much have to redo the well with proper equipment, buy a well tank, and do all the plumbing. First thing we got to do is capture the overflow from the artesian well. It is always trickling out water, which is fine in the summer, but in the winter, this will turn into an ice machine and just get ice everywhere. So we need to actually pipe the water somewhere where it can go away very nicely with no impact on us. We've still got a decent amount of this 1-inch poly tubing, which is not the easiest thing to work with, but it's not that bad. Got it mated up to the overflow, went underneath the road through a culvert, and now the water can run out into this little seasonal creek. My dad had the very good idea to get started building the well house in his backyard, so we had way better access to wood and tools and equipment. When you go up to Everstoke, it's a 2-hour round trip. If you need to go to Reno, that is very tough, even though we had to do it several times during this project. There are a couple local hardware stores that are decent, but this worked out much better. And now let's fast forward a couple weeks, a couple $1,000 of plumbing equipment, a couple inches of snow, and well over a foot of rain in less than 2 days, which is an amazing stress test for all the work that we've done to see if the culverts are working, to see where there's standing water. And there is standing water in a couple different spots, and there's a couple spots that we need to fix up a little bit. But overall, things really did well with a hellacious amount of rain. Remember this from earlier in the video? This hole is gonna take a little while to drain out though. Just give it time. So this is the whole thing that's been knocking around in my head for the past couple months, and I think I've got everything I need here. Water will come out of the well. It'll start entering into the system there. I've got a check valve to make sure water doesn't go back into the system. And I've got this big old pressure tank. So basically, the pressure tank is what's gonna make us have real running water. The well pump, as it does now, is gonna turn on, and then it's gonna fill this thing up. But instead of turning on every time you need water, this well tank will actually regulate the pressure magically. So then on the other side, you could actually use a regular faucet, get water out of it. Then eventually this starts to drain, and then it says, hey, turn on the well pump once more and actually fill this thing back up. So it's a very nice system. I think I've done my research right. Time will tell. And I've also got these massive filters to help get us nice and clean. And now there's only one way to find out if it's gonna work. Start building. It's pretty much like a fence, except for it's 3 walls and a door. We're gonna have 4 pressure-treated posts anchored into the ground with concrete. We're going to do a gravel floor and see how that works. It's finally time to turn this into a proper well seal instead of a janky MacGyver Tupperware well cap. So satisfying to get the well cap done and sealed, and the first day went pretty good. We got all 3 walls up, we got them stuck in the ground, all the prefab helped us out a lot, and I even started mocking up the plumbing, getting the dry fit going, seeing if everything was in its place, and of course it wasn't. So as I was finishing up yesterday, I realized I still needed quite a few more fittings. Went to Reno, Home Depot, spent like an hour and a half there going through all the fittings, making sure, is this the thing I need? So I've got the bag of stuff. Who knows if I've got everything I need? I hope so. I'm paying for my plumbing education. Look at this, our swimming pool is starting to drain out. Aaron got a siphon going with one of the pumps, and this has just been naturally going with gravity the whole night. So this was the whole reason I went to Home Depot, because for some reason my blow-off valve didn't have a, I don't know why it was a T or whatever, but this, I guessed, and I guessed right. And it fits in, so that's a really good sign. The well house will not be a perfectly insulated structure by any means, but I still want to give it a chance
to survive the coldest of cold temperatures without making the pipes burst when it freezes, and also keep as many critters out of inside this place as possible. So I bought a few sheets of this rigid foam insulation. It's 2 inches thick and provides an R value of 13. R value means resistance to heat transfer, and a regular 2x4 is only about R 1.5. It was pretty easy and satisfying to cut these down with the jigsaw and then slot them in, and then later I used spray foam to seal up all the edges.
Back to the hardware store, never enough spray foam. I bought them out.
And while I was inside working on the walls, my dad was on top working on the roof. I also thought it would be a good idea to do some plywood walls to have some more places to drive some screws when I'm mounting up all my plumbing and electrical stuff, and just to make it look a little nicer. But that 1/2 inch of plywood actually made it so it was a little too tight up against the well. I just put in a little notch and I actually screwed this panel in so I can get at it later if we need to do anything with the well. The structure's looking real good now, so it's time to move on to the internals. I laid down a couple loads of gravel inside the floor, put these cinder blocks down, and then got the awkward well tank on there sitting nice and sound.
Oh yeah.
Then I mounted up the bracket for the water filters, and this thing is mega heavy, especially when all 3 of them are going to be filled with water. So while I had the walls open, I made sure to put in some blocking behind this area so my screws would go in and have a little bit more to hold on to.
Here we go. It's day 5 of the plumbing project, and finally I'm going to start doing some plumbing.
Well, does trenching count as plumbing? This was the step that I really wanted to put off, but I just had to bite the bullet and dig a trench so I could run proper electrical conduit from the shipping container inside the well house at a depth of 18 inches or so, proper depth, just to make everything right.
That only took an hour and a half, which is pretty good, but I'm completely worn out now. I've already forgotten what all this stuff does.
I was able to make a decent amount of headway, and then I felt like I was missing something.
Just another $300 trip to Big Blue, but at least it didn't take me 2 hours. Well, 2 hours of driving, but not 2 hours in the aisles. And now the mess begins. I'm gonna use this thread sealer stuff and Teflon tape. Hopefully, when I get it all rigged up, I won't have a bunch of leaks, but I'll probably have a couple. Okay, I think we're good to go hydraulically. There's only one way to find out. Let's get the electrical hooked up and see if it works. The sun has gone down, but I think I've got it. There's only one way to find out. So when I hit this button, the expected behavior is that the well pump is going to kick on. It's going to fill up the well tank until it hits about 60 psi. Then it will just shut off. And it's filling up for the first time, so it's probably going to take a little while. And now is when the leaks will start to show up. I guess I could have let this stuff dry a little longer, but I don't got time for that. Oh, there we go. Okay. 65 psi, the pressure switch engaged. That is good to go. Now, that means there's water in the tank. When I turn this, we're gonna have faucet water for the first time. Oh yeah. Whoa! No! That's garbage I gotta take home later. All right. Whoa! Get back! Okay, back to the action. I think I can finish this. I went back home for a day, edited a video, got it uploaded, did my Patreon podcast, zipped back up, and now things are looking good. I don't see any leaks. I don't see any problems on the surface. It did rain last night, and my trench here didn't fill up with water, so that's good too. Okay, back to plumbing. Oh yeah, check out the Everstoke shirt. I also picked that up yesterday. Finally came in the mail. Go on Teespring. I got a link in the description. Different sizes, different colors, different shapes. Something for everybody. Support the project. Sell a couple shirts. I can buy a couple more plumbing fittings. Everything in here is looking good through my visual inspection. I don't see any leaks. This is very dry in here, even though it rained recently, so it's kind of wet from this area. And then this wood is not wet. It would be wet if this was leaking in there. The water pressure is still high, right around 60, and it's not plugged in. So if there was a leak, the pressure would be low and it wouldn't have been able to recharge because there's no power. So I think we're pretty good so far.
Apparently, I had not done all the trenching I needed to do. A couple more hours of digging and digging and digging just to get things lined up properly. Then I started pulling cable through the conduit. Man, I tried to make this easier on myself by buying 1-inch conduit. It was still very tough. There's nothing like the magic of video editing to turn hours of pain into 10 seconds of fun.
This is a pretty big victory so far. It looks okay. Of course, it's not perfect, but I think it's pretty good. I'm on my way to real electrical.
The rest of the electrical wiring stuff was really straightforward and easy, except for the fact that I used solid copper wire, which is extremely tough to work with in these little gang boxes. So eventually I kind of gave up. I put in a junction box, and then I turned that solid wire into stranded wire, and it made my life way easier.
All right, power flowing from the Blue Eddy power station through the shipping container, into the trench, into the well house, through this little junction box, into the outlet, which then feeds the switch, which feeds that switch, which feeds the well pump. Okay, it's crunch time now. The sun, she is a setting, and I have not done any of the plumbing from here. I've got to get this going, boom, 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 run it around, get it into here, get it out, get a hose bib going. Can I do this? I'm gonna burn the midnight oil and see if I can. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be able to get the door going on this trip. It might be Christmas by the time I put the door on. Oh, I gotta get the door on.
The tough part about plumbing, at least when you use PEX, is the planning. Buying your fittings, knowing how much you need, especially if you're doing weird angles like I am. But then the install is actually pretty fun. You don't have to be super exact. You push these fittings in, the pipe just snaps right in, and it's really nice because it's forgiving. It can bend a little bit. I really like this, and I got this done only in a couple hours.
Here we go. I'm up. It's time to get going. I only have about 4 hours until I need to hit the road. I need to get this done. I'm not getting back here for so long. I think I realized I forgot to put a valve on this. Everywhere in the system, it's like you need a stop and then a valve to be able to relieve stuff from the system. And some of the diagrams even show a bypass to go around this, which makes a lot of sense. So you could just keep stuff going and take the filters off. This PEX tubing is very good for a rookie plumber because it's so flexible and movable. If you make a mistake, you can kind of like be like, oh, let's just move it this way a little bit. I should have bought a different type of valve for this because when you tighten it or loosen it, you're always fighting. Whoops. You know what? This might actually be perfect because now you actually need two hands to keep it from spinning. When the hose is on there, it actually works properly, but when the hose is off, it just kind of spins around. I like it. It's a feature, not a bug. Okay, it's time to test. Let's see what I've got here. That's the spin down filter. That helps filter out any big sediment particles before it gets to the first filter here, which is like also a sediment filter. And this is a carbon filter. And this is an iron and manganese filter. Get all the air out of the filter here. Run it through, give it a good cycle. This spin down filter here is really cool because once it fills up with nasty stuff, you can hit this little valve and it'll shoot the water out, and it kind of clears out all the sediment before you have to take everything apart and actually change the filter. So eventually when I need to change the filters, I have this little wrench here, and first I'll shut down the system. So that will close off the water here, and then I'll open this up and bleed out all the water from the system. These will still be filled with water just because of gravity, so they'll be heavy as heck. Pour them out, change the filters, lock everything up, then turn back the water, and you're good to go. I've got a hose, I've got some soap, and I've got a dirty motorcycle. Time to clean the Rokon off, finally. Okay, the final test. I've actually got to drink this water. I did the test there, all the tests look good, but it's still just a weird feeling at first to be like, okay, let's drink some water that hasn't gone through the proper protocols. Got a lot of air bubbles in it. I'll see you on the other side. No taste, no smell, thumbs up. Can I interest you in the 2021 vintage of Everstoke Artesian water?
Oh, is that right out of the filter? I'll try that.
Yeah. It's got some air bubbles in it, so it takes a little while to settle down.
Did you try some already?
I did. Pure, nothing. I don't,
That's good.
it seems perfect.
We're dead in a couple days, we'll know why.
Yep, exactly. We'll just drink a little bit. Having running water now is so good. I usually have to buy some of these or fill up this jug. And if you're out here for more than a few days, you got to go back to the store, fill them up again. So on-demand water. It's huge. So I've got a couple hours, so I might as well try to mess with this door and get it framed in. I feel like I'm out of my depth on this one. Moment of truth. Holy moly, hanging a door is no joke. Lots of shims, lots of cussing. But I think I've got it enough right now where it's not slamming anything. I'm close. That was an absolute marathon. We're about 90% complete, I'd say. Couple things to plumb, couple things for the door, and some trim to all make it look good. Not gonna happen now, probably not gonna happen for a couple months, but I'm glad I got this much done. Do me a favor, go ride something new, and maybe I'll see you on the trail. Oh yeah.
Oh, it works. Go for it, yeah. Don't stop. Don't stop, don't stop.
Get me out of here.
Go, go, go.
Oh man, it's like a fatal mistake, huh?
Almost. Just a little bit of rain. Can't wait to get a little more road base.
Oh, there we go. Woo.
All right.
Thank goodness.